I have $1 million in my retirement account, a paid-off house, and a wall full of awards that say I was the best in my field. But I would trade every single dime and burn every single award just to go back to one Tuesday afternoon in May. That was the afternoon I made a choice. It felt like a small choice at the time. Just a meeting, just a client, just work. I told myself I could make it up to her later. I told myself there would be other graduations, other celebrations, other moments to be a father. But I didn't know that my daughter was keeping score. And I didn't know that on that specific Tuesday, the clock ran out. I am sitting in my home office. The chair is leather, imported from Italy. The desk is mahogany. Everything in this room smells like success. But the silence in this big house is so loud it hurts my ears. My computer screen lit up with a notification. A single email. It wasn't from a client. It wasn't from my bank. It was from my ex-wife, Sarah. The subject line was just one word. Emily. My hand shook as I clicked the mouse. I hadn't heard that name spoken in this house for 3 years. I held my breath. I expected bad news. An accident, an illness, a request for money. It wasn't bad news. It was worse. It was a digital image. Cream-colored paper, gold cursive font. The honor of your presence is requested at the marriage of Emily Ann Miller to James Patrick Holden. But the email wasn't sent to me directly. It was a forward. Sarah had typed a short note at the top. I thought you should know. She didn't want to tell you herself. I stared at the date. October 14th. That is 3 weeks from now. I stared at the venue. A vineyard in Napa Valley. I felt a cold wave crash over my entire body. There was no RSVP card for me. There was no request for the father of the bride to choose a meal. I wasn't even being asked to walk her down the aisle. I wasn't even a guest. I am the man who paid for her braces. I paid for her college. I paid for the car she learned to drive in. But on the most important day of her life, I am a ghost. I leaned back in my expensive chair. I looked at the wall of awards behind my monitor. Salesman of the Year, CEO of the Decade. They looked like shiny pieces of trash. I didn't lose her today. I didn't lose her when I opened this email. I lost her 20 years ago, on a Tuesday, when I decided that a meeting was more important than her heart. To understand the end, we have to go back to the beginning. 20 years ago, I wasn't the monster she thinks I am. I didn't drink. I never raised a hand to her. I thought I was a hero. I grew up with nothing. My father was a good man, but he was broke. I remember the shame of wearing secondhand clothes. I remember the electricity being cut off. I made a vow to never let that happen. I decided that love looked like a checkbook. I decided that being a good father meant being a good provider. I didn't want hugs. I wanted security. I wanted to build a fortress of money around my little girl. So I worked. I didn't just work. I disappeared into it. 60 hours a week became 70. 70 became 80. I was the first one in the office and the last one to leave. I wore my exhaustion like a medal. When I missed dinner, I told myself, I am doing this for them. When I missed bedtime stories, I said, this pays for her college. I convinced myself that my absence was the highest form of love I could give. And it worked. We moved into the big house on the hill. She went to the best private school. She had the newest clothes. On paper, we were the perfect family. On paper, I was winning the game of life. But I didn't see the cracks. I didn't see that a big house is just a big, empty space if you aren't there to fill it. I thought I was building a legacy. I was actually building a prison. I thought she wanted the things I never had. I thought she wanted the toys, the trips, the status. I was projecting my own childhood hunger onto her. I didn't realize she was hungry for something money couldn't buy. I was the architect of my own loneliness. I laid every brick myself. I paid for every wall with overtime hours. And I was so proud of the structure, I didn't notice I had locked myself on the outside.
It didn't happen all at once. You don't lose a child in a day. You lose them in inches. You lose them in 5-minute phone calls. You lose them in empty seats at soccer games. I remember when she was 6. I had to leave for a conference in Chicago. She grabbed my leg. She cried, "Daddy, don't go." It broke my heart, but I peeled her fingers off gently. I told her I was going to buy her a present. I thought the toy would fix the tears. I left her crying in the driveway. I told myself she would forget by tomorrow. By the time she was 10, the crying stopped. It became bargaining. "Daddy, the school play is Thursday. Can you try?" She looked at me with those big, hopeful eyes. She still believed I could choose her. I always had a reason. A client was flying in. A deadline was looming. "I'll make the next one, honey. I promise." I said next time so often, it became my catchphrase. Then came the teenage years. This is when the silence started. She stopped asking. I would say, "I have to work late tonight." I expected a fight. Instead, she just shrugged. "Okay, Dad." I thought this was progress. I thought, she gets it now. She understands the value of hard work. I patted myself on the back. I thought I had raised a mature, understanding daughter. I was a fool. She wasn't understanding me. She was giving up on me. She learned that my yes was a lie. She learned that my maybe meant no. So she stopped setting herself up for pain. We fell into a rhythm. I worked, and she lived her life around my absence. She stopped looking for my face in the crowd. She learned to look for her mother. She learned to look for herself. I didn't realize that indifference is worse than anger. Anger means they still care. Anger means they want you to change. Silence means they have accepted you are never going to be there. Then came the moment that changed everything. It started quietly, as most tragedies do. It was December, about 6 months before the end of her senior year. We were sitting in the living room. The Christmas tree was lit. The fire was crackling. It was one of those rare nights where I was actually home. I wasn't on a call. I wasn't checking my email. I was just sitting there. Emily was 21 years old. She looked so much like her mother, but she had my eyes. She was staring at the floor, twisting a loose thread on the sofa cushion. I could tell she wanted to say something. She was nervous. That nervousness hurt me more than I admitted. A daughter shouldn't be nervous to talk to her own father. But in our house, asking for my time felt like asking for a loan. "Dad," she said softly, her voice was small, "I need to ask you something, and it's okay if you say no. I know how busy you are. I know the company is going through a lot right now." She was pre-apologizing. She was giving me an out before she even made the request. That is what my absence had taught her. It taught her to expect rejection. It taught her to lower her expectations. "What is it, honey?" I asked. I put down my drink. I leaned forward. I wanted to show her I was listening. I wanted to be the father she deserved, at least for tonight. "Graduation is in May," she said. She didn't look up. "I'm graduating summa cum laude, top of the class. They invited me to give a speech. It's a big deal, I guess." She paused. The room was so quiet. "I would really love it if you could be there. Just for the ceremony. You don't have to stay for the whole weekend. Just for the speech." I looked at her. I saw the little girl who used to cry when I left for business trips, but the tears were gone now. They were replaced by a guarded hope. A hope she was afraid to feel. Something broke inside me. I realized how many times I had said maybe. I realized how many times maybe turned into something came up. I didn't want to be that man anymore. Not for this. I reached out and took her hand. It was cold. "Emily," I said firmly, "look at me." She lifted her eyes. They were guarded. She was waiting for the excuse. She was waiting for the, "let me check my schedule." "I will be there. I promise. Put it in ink. Nothing on earth could keep me away. I don't care if the building is burning down. I am coming to see you graduate." She smiled. It wasn't a big smile. It was a relieved smile. The tension left her shoulders. "Really?" she asked. "You promise?" "I promise. Cross my heart." I put it on my calendar that night. I wrote it in red marker. Emily, graduation. I told my secretary the next morning. "Block these dates," I ordered. "No meetings, no calls, no exceptions." For the next 5 months, I felt like a hero. I held on to that promise like a shield. Whenever I felt guilty about missing a dinner, I told myself, I am going to the graduation. I bought my plane ticket in January. I printed the confirmation and pinned it to my bulletin board. It was my trophy. It was proof that I was a good father, proof that I could change. I even went shopping. I hate shopping, but I went to a tailor and bought a new suit. I wanted to look successful. I wanted her to look at the audience and see me shining. I bragged about it to everyone. At lunch meetings, I would bring it up. "My daughter is summa cum laude," I would say. "I'm flying up to Boston in May. Wouldn't miss it for the world." My colleagues would nod and smile. "That's great, Robert," they said. They respected me for it. I felt like I was finally getting the work-life balance right. I felt like I was winning the game. I called her in April to confirm the flight details. "I land at 10 a.m., I told her. "I'll take you to a fancy lunch before the ceremony. My treat. Anywhere you want to go." She sounded so happy. "That sounds perfect, Dad," she said. "I can't wait." Her voice was light. It didn't have that heavy caution in it. We were connecting. Finally. I hung up the phone and smiled at my reflection in the office window. I thought I had fixed it. I thought one big gesture could erase 20 years of absence. I was so arrogant. I didn't know that promises are fragile things. They are like glass. They look strong until you drop them. And I was holding this promise with slippery hands. The weeks ticked by. May arrived. The suit was hanging in my closet, pressed and ready. The ticket was in my briefcase. I was ready to be the father she wanted. I went to sleep on Monday night feeling peaceful. I had cleared my schedule. I had done the work. I was 4 days away from redemption. But life has a cruel sense of humor. It waits until you feel safe. It waits until you let your guard down. And then it tests you. It asks you what you really value. I thought I valued my daughter above everything. I really believed that. But I was about to find out that my addiction to work was stronger than my love for her. And the test was coming on Tuesday.
It was Tuesday morning, 3 days before the flight. The sun was shining. I was in my office, clearing off my desk. I was humming to myself. I was already mentally on vacation. Then the red light on my phone flashed. It was the private line. Only 3 people had that number: my wife, my daughter, and the CEO. I picked it up without looking. "Robert here," I said cheerfully. "Robert," the voice said. It was Arthur, the CEO. His voice was like gravel. It was tight and low. "We have a problem. A big one." My stomach dropped. The cheerfulness evaporated. "What is it, Arthur?" I asked. I sat up straighter in my expensive chair. "Is it the merger?" The merger was the deal of the century. "It's falling apart," Arthur said. "The buyers are getting cold feet. They heard a rumor about the Q3 numbers. They're threatening to pull out. If they walk, the stock tanks. We lose everything." I felt the blood drain from my face. I had spent 2 years on this deal. It was my baby. It was my legacy. If this deal closed, I would get a bonus that could buy a small island. "What do we need to do?" I asked. I was already in problem-solving mode. My brain switched from father to executive in a split second. It was a reflex, a habit I couldn't break. "They want a face-to-face," Arthur said. "They want reassurance. They want to see the books, and they want to look us in the eye. They want a meeting in London." "Okay," I said. "Send the team. Send David. He knows the numbers." I was trying to deflect. I was trying to protect my trip. "David isn't enough," Arthur snapped. "They don't want the VP. They want the closer. They want you, Robert," he said. "You are the only one they trust. You have the relationship with their CEO. If you're not in that room, the deal is dead." I looked at the calendar on my wall. I looked at the red ink. Emily. Graduation. "Arthur," I said. My voice wavered. "I can't. Not this week. My daughter is graduating on Friday." There was a silence on the line. It was a heavy, judgmental silence. I knew that silence. It was the sound of a man assessing my commitment. It was the sound of my career hanging in the balance. "Robert," Arthur said slowly, "I understand family is important, but we are talking about $50 million. We are talking about the future of this firm. We are talking about your reputation." He didn't order me to go. That would have been easier. If he ordered me, I could have rebelled. Instead, he seduced me. He appealed to my vanity. He appealed to my greed. "You are the best, Robert. Nobody else can do this. We need our MVP. Are you telling me you're going to let the team down for a ceremony?" The word ceremony hung in the air. He made it sound so trivial. Just a ceremony. Just a girl in a cap and gown. Just a speech. Compared to $50 million? It sounded small. I started to rationalize. The sickness in my brain took over. He's right. It's just a few hours. She won't even see me in the crowd. Does it really matter if I am physically there? I can make it up to her, I told myself. With the bonus from this deal, I can do anything. I can pay for her wedding. I can buy her a house. I can set her up for life. Financial security is love. I am doing this for her. She is an adult. She is graduating with a business degree. She will understand. She will respect the hustle. I looked at the picture of Emily on my desk. She was smiling. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, but I pushed it down. I shoved it deep into the dark place where I kept all my guilt. "When is the meeting?" I asked Arthur. My voice was dead. "Friday morning," he said. "You need to fly out tonight." Friday morning. The exact same time as her speech. I closed my eyes, and I saw the fork in the road. One path led to my daughter, the other path led to the money. I stood there for a long minute, and then I walked away from her. "Book the ticket. I'm going to London." Arthur breathed a sigh of relief. "Good man. I knew I could count on you." I hung up the phone. I sat in the silence of my office. I felt sick, physically sick. But I also felt a rush of adrenaline. I was essential. I was needed. The company couldn't survive without me. That feeling of being indispensable, it was my drug. And I just chose my drug over my daughter. I picked up the phone to call the travel agent. My hands were steady. I told the agent, "Cancel the flight to Boston and get me a first-class seat to London Heathrow." I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. I just did business. Because that is what I was, a businessman.
Booking the ticket was the easy part. The hard part was the call. I knew I had to tell her. I couldn't just not show up. But I was a coward. I delayed it. I waited until I was at the airport. I told myself it was because I was busy packing, but the truth was, I wanted the time constraint. I wanted to be able to say, "I have to board." I sat in the first-class lounge. It was quiet. Luxury chairs. Free champagne. It was the bubble of comfort I had worked my whole life to live inside. But today, it felt like a waiting room for hell. I ordered a double scotch. I drank it fast. I needed the burn to numb the guilt. I checked my watch. 1 hour until boarding. I couldn't put it off any longer. I pulled out my phone. I stared at her name. Emily Sell. I rehearsed my speech in my head. I had my bullet points ready. I treated it like a client negotiation. Point 1, the crisis. Make it sound catastrophic. Point 2, the necessity. I had no choice. Point 3, the reward. I will make it up to her. I will buy her something expensive. I took a deep breath. I dialed. The phone rang. 1 ring, 2 rings. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Part of me hoped she wouldn't answer. Voicemail would be easier. But she answered. "Hey, Dad." Her voice was so clear, so happy. There was noise in the background, laughter, music. She was out with her friends. She was celebrating. "Are you at the gate? What time do you land? Mom and I are going to pick you up." She sounded so excited. She sounded like a little girl again. The knife twisted in my gut. I closed my eyes. "Emily?" I used my serious voice, the voice I used to fire people. "Honey, listen, we have a problem." The laughter in her voice died instantly. "What is it? Are you okay? Is it a delay?" She was worried about me. She was worried about my flight. She still trusted me. "It's not a delay," I said. "It's work. Something has come up. The merger is falling apart. Arthur needs me in London right now, tonight." I waited. I let the words hang there. I wanted her to offer me an out. I wanted her to say, "It's okay, Dad, go save the company." I wanted her to absolve me, London? She repeated. Her voice was small. But the graduation is Friday. I know. I know, honey. I tried to get out of it. But they need me. I'm the only one who can fix it. I have to go. I'm at the airport now. I'm boarding the plane to London. I was lying. I wasn't boarding yet. I just needed to end the conversation. I waited for the scream. I braced myself for the tears. You promised. I expected her to yell. I was ready to defend myself. I was ready to explain the economics of the situation. But the scream never came. There was just silence. A long, hollow silence. I could hear the people laughing in the background on her end. They sounded like they were 1,000,000 miles away. Emily? I asked. Are you there? I needed her to speak. I needed her to be angry. Anger is connection. Anger is heat. This silence was cold. It was terrifying. Okay, Dad, she finally said. Her voice was flat. It was unrecognizable. It wasn't sad. It wasn't disappointed. It was empty. It was the voice of a stranger. Have a safe flight to London, she said. No emotion, no drama, just a factual statement. I'll make it up to you, I stammered. I felt like I was drowning. I'll buy you a car. We'll go to Europe. Don't worry about it, she said. I have to go. My friends are waiting. Bye. The line went dead. She hung up. She didn't slam the phone, she just disconnected. I stared at the screen. Call ended. I felt a strange wave of relief wash over me. She took it well, I told myself. She didn't cry. She really has grown up.
I ordered another scotch. I told myself I had dodged a bullet. I told myself she understood. I patted myself on the back for raising such a resilient daughter. I didn't know the truth. I didn't know that she didn't cry because she wasn't surprised. She didn't scream because she expected this. I had just confirmed everything she feared. I thought I had missed a ceremony. I didn't realize I had missed the deadline. The statute of limitations on her hope had just run out, and I was too drunk on my own importance to notice. I boarded the plane to London feeling powerful. I sat in my first-class pod. I opened my laptop. I went to work. I flew away from my daughter, and I never really came back.
Friday arrived, the day of the graduation. But I wasn't in Boston. I was 4,000 miles away. I was in a glass-walled conference room in London. The sky was gray. The mood was tense. I was wearing my lucky tie. I was sitting at the head of the table. Across from me were the buyers. They looked skeptical. They had their arms crossed. They were ready to walk away. I turned on the charm. I opened my portfolio. I started to speak. I was in my element. I wasn't a father in that moment. I was a shark. I was a machine. I walked them through the numbers. I painted a picture of the future. I saw their body language change. They leaned in. They uncrossed their arms. I was reeling them in. At the exact same moment, in a gymnasium in Boston, a band was playing. People were finding their seats. The air smelled like floor wax and cheap perfume. My daughter was fixing her cap. I imagine she scanned the crowd. She knew I wasn't coming. I had told her. But a part of her, the child part of her, probably still looked. She probably checked the door one last time. She saw her mother. She saw her aunt. And right next to them, she saw it. The empty chair. The gap in the row. The physical space where her father should have been. That chair wasn't just furniture. It was a statement. It screamed louder than any speech. It said, "You are secondary." It said, "The deal matters more." It was a public declaration of my priorities. Back in London, I was closing the deal. I shook hands with the CEO. "You have a deal, Robert," he said. The room erupted in applause. My team cheered. I felt a rush of adrenaline. I had saved the company. I had secured the $50 million. I felt invincible. I checked my watch. It was 3 p.m. in London. That meant it was 10 a.m. in Boston. She is walking across the stage right now, I thought. I felt a pang of guilt, but I pushed it away. I'll call her later, I told myself. I'll explain how big this was. I imagined her smiling. I imagined her holding her diploma. I didn't imagine the truth. I didn't see her walking across that stage with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I didn't see her take the diploma and look at the audience. I didn't see her eyes land on that empty chair again. I didn't see the light go out in her face. She wasn't just graduating from college that day. She was graduating from me. She was graduating from the hope that I would ever change. She was accepting the reality of who I was. In London, we opened champagne. We toasted to the future. We toasted to wealth. I felt like the king of the world. I drank the expensive wine and laughed with men I barely knew. I pulled out my phone to text her. "Proud of you," I wrote. "Deal closed. Celebrating tonight." I added a champagne emoji. I thought she would be happy for me. I thought she would be impressed. She didn't reply. I watched the bubbles rise in my glass. I told myself she was just busy. She was out with friends. She was throwing her cap in the air. I didn't know that she saw the text. She looked at it. She showed it to her mother. "He's celebrating," she said. "He's drinking champagne while I'm graduating." That text confirmed it. It proved that I wasn't suffering. I wasn't heartbroken to miss it. I was partying. I was happy to be away. That was the final insult. The ceremony ended. The families gathered for photos. My ex-wife stood next to Emily. They smiled. There was a space next to Emily where I should have stood. They didn't leave a gap in the photo. They stood closer together. They filled the space. They closed ranks. The photo looked complete without me. And that is the tragedy. They didn't need me anymore. I went to a fancy dinner in London that night. I ate steak. I laughed at jokes. I felt successful. I went to bed in a 5-star hotel. I slept like a baby. I woke up the next morning feeling rich. I checked my bank account mentally. I calculated my bonus. I felt secure. I thought I had built a fortress for my family. I didn't realize that while I was building the fortress, the family had left the building. I was guarding an empty castle, and the drawbridge was pulled up tight. I flew home 2 days later. I felt triumphant. I had the contract in my bag. I had a gift for Emily wrapped in gold paper. I was ready to celebrate. I didn't know I was coming home to a different world. The house looked the same. The car looked the same. But the air had changed. The atmosphere was different. I walked through the door expecting a hero's welcome. I expected, "Did you close the deal, Dad?" I expected, "Thanks for working so hard for us." Instead, I found silence. A heavy, thick silence. The kind of silence that suffocates you. The kind of silence that tells you that you are a stranger in your own home.
I drove to her apartment the day I got back. I had the gift in the passenger seat. It was a watch. A Rolex. It cost more than my first car. I wanted to impress her. I thought the watch would fix it. I thought if the gift was expensive enough, it would weigh more than my absence. I thought I could trade gold for time. I knocked on her door. She opened it. She smiled, but it wasn't her real smile. It was her customer service smile. It was polite. It was distant. It was cold. "Hey, Dad," she said. She didn't hug me. She stepped back to let me in. The apartment was messy. Boxes were packed. She was moving on. "I got you something," I said. I held out the gold box. I felt proud. "For the graduate." She took it. She opened it. She looked at the watch. "Wow," she said. "It's beautiful. Thank you." Her voice was flat. She put the watch on the table. She didn't put it on her wrist. She didn't gasp. She didn't cry. "I'm sorry I missed it," I said. "But the deal closed. We are set, Emily. This bonus changes everything." I waited for her to validate me. I waited for her to say it was worth it. "That's great, Dad," she said. "I'm glad it worked out for you." For me, not for us, for me. She had separated our interests. She saw my success as my own, not ours. I stayed for 20 minutes. The conversation was painful. It was like pulling teeth. I asked about the ceremony. She gave one-word answers. Fine. Good. Long. "Well," I said finally, "I should let you unpack." I stood up. I wanted her to ask me to stay. I wanted her to say, "Let's get dinner." She stood up too. "Okay, drive safe." She closed the door behind me. I heard the lock click. It was a soft sound, but it echoed in my head. I drove home feeling confused. Why isn't she happy? I wondered. That was the beginning of the drift. It wasn't an explosion. She didn't block my number. She didn't scream at me. She just faded. Like a radio station going out of range. I would call her on Sundays. "Hey, honey, want to grab lunch?"
She was always busy. I can't this week, Dad. Work is crazy. She used my own excuse against me. Work is crazy. I couldn't argue with that. I had taught her that work was God. I had taught her that busy was a valid reason to neglect people. Maybe next week, she would say. But next week never came. She was always working. Or she was out of town. Or she was tired. There was always a reason. I missed her birthday that year. I was in Tokyo. I sent a text. "Happy birthday. Gift is in the mail." She replied 3 hours later. "Thanks, Dad." No exclamation point. Just a period. "Thanks, Dad." Period. It felt like a slap. But I told myself I was being sensitive. I said, "She's just busy. She's starting her career. She's just like me." Christmas came. She came home for 2 hours. She ate quickly. She checked her phone. "I have to go to James' parents' house," she said. James was her boyfriend. I barely knew him. "Stay for pie," I pleaded. "I bought the expensive kind." "I can't," she said. "We promised his mom." She prioritized his family. She prioritized the people who showed up. I sat in my big living room alone. I ate the expensive pie. It tasted like sawdust. I looked at the tree. It was perfectly decorated, but there were no presents under it for me.
The years went by. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. The calls stopped coming from her. If I didn't call, we didn't speak. I tested it once. I waited 2 months. Silence. She wasn't angry. That's what killed me. If she was angry, we could fight. We could scream. We could fix it. She was indifferent. She just didn't care. I had become an acquaintance. I was a distant relative she saw on holidays. I was the man who sent checks. I wasn't her father. I was just a bank account with a face. I tried to buy my way back in. I sent bigger checks. I offered vacations. "Let's go to Hawaii," I said. "On me, first class." She declined. "I can't take the time off." She didn't want my money. She didn't want my trips. She had learned to live without me. She had built a life where I was optional, and she was choosing the option of no. I watched her life on social media. I saw photos of her smiling. I saw her with her friends. I saw her with James's family. They looked happy. They looked close. I wasn't in any of the photos. I was the invisible man. I was the ghost who haunted the edges of her life. I had everything I ever worked for, and I had absolutely nothing. Then came the pinnacle, the moment I had been running toward my entire life. I was named CEO. I made the cover of the industry magazine. I reached the top of the mountain. My bank account was full. 7 figures. I had stock options. I had a golden parachute. I had the big office with the view of the city. I was the king. I retired at 60. It was the plan. Work hard for 40 years, then enjoy the spoils. I walked out of the office for the last time. My colleagues clapped. They threw me a party. There was cake. There were speeches. Robert was a visionary, they said. Robert gave everything to this company. They were right. I gave everything. I gave my soul. I gave my daughter. I drove home that night. I parked my luxury car in the garage. I walked into my mansion. It was quiet. The housekeeper had left. The lights were dim. I sat down on my Italian sofa. I looked around.
I had paintings on the walls worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. I had a wine cellar full of vintage bottles. But the house was empty. There was no noise, no laughter, no footsteps, just the hum of the expensive refrigerator, just the sound of my own breathing. I poured a glass of wine. I sat there and waited to feel happy. I waited to feel the satisfaction of a life well lived. But I didn't feel satisfied. I felt hollow. I had the time now. That was the irony. I finally had the time. I had nowhere to be. No meetings, no flights. I could go for lunch on a Tuesday. I picked up the phone. I called Emily. It went to voicemail. I left a message. "Hey, honey, I'm retired. I'm a free man. Let's celebrate. Let's go to Italy. My trip." She called back 2 days later. "Congrats on retirement, Dad," she said. She sounded polite. "Italy sounds nice, but I can't. I just got a promotion. I can't leave the office." "Quit," I said. "I'll support you. I have enough money for both of us. Come travel with me." I was desperate. I was trying to buy her company. "I don't want your money, Dad," she said. Her voice was firm. "I like my job. I like my life. I'm not going to quit my life to keep you company." "I just want to spend time with you," I said. My voice cracked. "I missed so much. I want to make it up to you." I was begging now. The CEO was begging. "You can't make it up, Dad," she said. "That time is gone. You spent it. You can't get a refund on 20 years. She wasn't being cruel. She was being factual. "I built this for you," I said. "All this money, this house, it's for you." I waved my hand at the empty room, even though she couldn't see it. "I never asked for it," she said softly. "I didn't want the house, Dad. I wanted you to come to my graduation. I wanted you to come to my plays. I wanted you." "But I'm here now," I said. "I'm here now." "It's too late," she said. "I've learned to be alone. I've learned to not need you. You taught me that. You taught me that work is the most important thing," she continued. "So I'm working. I'm doing exactly what you did. You should be proud." She hung up. I sat in the silence. The words echoed in my head. You taught me that. I had created this. I had molded her in my image. I looked at my awards. Salesman of the Year. Closer of the Year. They mocked me. They were shiny metal lies. They told me I was a success, but the silence told me I was a failure. I had climbed the ladder to the very top. I had beaten everyone. I had won the race. But I realized, sitting in that dark room, that I had leaned my ladder against the wrong wall. I had money, but money is cold comfort at night. Money doesn't hug you back. Money doesn't ask how your day was. Money sits in a bank and laughs at you. I was the poorest rich man in the world. I had a fortune in the bank and a deficit in my heart. And no amount of interest could ever pay off the debt I owed my daughter.
I finally forced the issue. I couldn't take the polite distance anymore. I needed to know why. I needed to hear her say it. I badgered her into a lunch date. I practically begged. Just 1 hour, I said. I'll come to you, near your office, just 1 hour, Emily, please. She finally agreed. Fine, she said. Tuesday at noon. I arrived 30 minutes early. I was nervous. I felt like I was going to a job interview. I checked my reflection in the window. I looked old. The success hadn't stopped the aging. She walked in right at noon. She looked professional, sharp. She looked like me. She checked her watch before she sat down. She was already counting the minutes until she could leave. "Hi, Dad," she said. She ordered an iced tea. She didn't open the menu. "I can't stay long," she said. "I have a meeting at 1. A meeting? The irony was suffocating. "Emily," I started, "I want to talk. Really talk. No small talk about the weather, no talk about the market. I want to know what happened to us." She stirred her tea. She didn't look up. "Nothing happened, Dad," she said. "We're fine. I'm just busy. You know how it is." She was using the script I gave her. "No," I said, "we are not fine. You treat me like a stranger. You never call, you never visit. I'm your father, Emily. I gave you everything. Why do you push me away?" She finally looked at me. Her eyes were clear. There was no anger in them. That scared me. Anger is hot. This was cold. This was ice. "I don't push you away, Dad," she said calmly. "I just stopped chasing you. There is a difference." She took a sip of her tea. She looked bored. "Is this about the graduation? Is this still about that one stupid Tuesday 20 years ago? I told you I was sorry. I bought you the watch. It was one day." I shouldn't have said it. I saw her eyes change. The boredom vanished. A flicker of pain crossed her face. Then it hardened into steel. She put her glass down. "It wasn't just the graduation," she said quietly. "The graduation was just the period at the end of the sentence. It was the moment I stopped lying to myself." "Lying?" I asked. "About what?" "About you," she said. "I spent my whole childhood making excuses for you. Dad is busy. Dad is important. Dad loves me. He just has to work." I believed it. I really did. I thought if I was good enough, if I was smart enough, you would stay. I thought I could earn your time. She leaned forward. Then came graduation. I was top of my class, Dad. I did everything right. I asked you for one thing, one morning, and you promised. I had to go, I defended myself. The deal. She cut me off. "I know about the deal," she said. "I know about the money. But that day, I realized something. I realized that I was an option to you. I was a hobby. Work was your life. And I decided right then, sitting in that chair, that I was done waiting. I stopped expecting you to show up. And you know what? It hurt less. When I stopped hoping, it stopped hurting. I learned to live without you, and I got good at it." I sat there, stunned. The noise of the restaurant faded away. I looked at this woman. She wasn't my little girl. She was a stranger I had created. "But I love you," I whispered. "I did it all for you." "No, Dad. You did it for you. You did it for the applause. You did it for the ego. Don't put that on me." "I wanted a father," she said. "I didn't want a bank. I didn't want a CEO. I just wanted you to eat pizza with me on a Tuesday. But you were always in London." She checked her watch again. "She has to go," she said. She pulled out her wallet. She said, "I'll get this." She put cash on the table. "Emily, wait," I said. "Let me pay." "No, I can pay for myself. You taught me that." She stood up. She smoothed her skirt.
"Goodbye, Dad," she said. She walked out. She didn't look back. I stared at the cash on the table. $20. It was the most expensive meal I ever ate. I sat there for a long time. The waiter asked if I wanted anything else. I shook my head. I had everything I deserved, which was absolutely nothing.
We come back to the present, back to the email on my screen. The invitation, the honor of your presence. It feels like a joke, a cruel, cosmic joke. My presence. That is the one thing I never gave her. And now it is the one thing she doesn't want. The email wasn't sent to me. It was forwarded, a courtesy, a notification. I look at the date, October 14th, next Saturday. I look at the location, a vineyard. It looks beautiful. I wonder who is paying for it. Probably her or him. I wonder who will walk her down the aisle. Will she walk alone? Will her stepfather do it? The thought makes bile rise in my throat. Another man holding my daughter's arm. Another man giving her away. But you can't give away something you never held. I let go of her hand years ago. I let go when she was 6. I let go when she was 21. I open my disk drawer. I pull out my checkbook. It is leather-bound, heavy. It smells like money. It smells like my life. I pick up my pen. It is a Mont Blanc. Expensive. Everything I own is expensive. I open the checkbook. I write the date. My hand trembles slightly. Pay to the order of Emily Miller. I write the sum. It is a massive number. Enough for a house. Enough for a luxury car. It is a guilt tax. I look at the number. It looks impressive. It looks generous. But I know the truth. It is worthless. It is just paper. It is just ink. She doesn't want this. She told me, "I don't want your money, Dad." But it is all I have to give. It is the only language I know how to speak. I tear the check out. The sound is loud in the quiet room. Rip. It sounds like something breaking. I hold it in my hand. I imagine mailing it. I imagine her opening it. Will she smile? Will she roll her eyes? Will she tear it up? Probably. She is proud. She is stubborn. She is just like me. I put the check in an envelope. I address it, but I don't seal it. I stare at it. Sending it feels like an insult. Not sending it feels like neglect. I'm trapped. I open another drawer, the graveyard drawer. It is full of things I never sent. Birthday cards I bought but forgot to mail. Letters I wrote when I was drunk and lonely. I drop the envelope into the drawer. It lands on top of a card from her 25th birthday. Maybe later, I whisper. Maybe I'll send it later. Later, my favorite word, my deadly word. I close the drawer. The sound of it sliding shut is final. It sounds like a coffin closing. I lean back in my chair. I look at the email one last time. I press delete. It vanishes from my screen, but it doesn't vanish from my mind. I will not be at the wedding. I will be here, in this office, surrounded by my awards, surrounded by my success. I will be safe in my tower. I poured my life into this room. I poured my soul into this career. And it gave me exactly what I asked for: money, status, power. But it took the one thing I can't buy back. It took my seat at the table. It took my place in the line. I am not the father of the bride. I am just a man who knows her. I turn off the monitor. The screen goes black. I sit in the dark. The silence is heavy. It presses against my chest. This is the price of the deal. I am finally paying it.
Saturday arrives, the day of the wedding. The sun comes up, indifferent to my pain. It is a beautiful day, a perfect day for a wedding. I don't get out of bed until noon. Why bother? I have nowhere to go. I have no one to see. I am a retired CEO with an empty calendar. I walk through my big house. It feels like a museum. I touch the furniture. I look at the art. It is cold. Everything is cold. I go out to the garden. I sit in a lawn chair. I look at the time. It is 4 p.m. The ceremony is starting right now. 3,000 miles away, music is playing. I close my eyes. I can see it. I can see the rows of white chairs on the grass. I can see the guests turning their heads. I can see the groom waiting. I see Emily. She is wearing white. She looks beautiful. She looks happy. She is walking down the aisle. Who is beside her? I don't let myself look. It hurts too much. I imagine the front row, the family row. Her mother is there. Her friends are there. And there is a space. Or maybe there isn't. Maybe they didn't leave a chair for me this time. Maybe they filled the gap. Maybe they pushed the chairs together to hide the hole. That is the worst thought. That I am not even missing. That I am just gone. Erased. Forgotten. 20 years ago, I left a chair empty at her graduation. I chose a boardroom in London over a gymnasium in Boston. I made a statement that day. Now the universe is answering. The universe is balancing the books. I left a chair empty for her. Now she is leaving a chair empty for me. It is a perfect symmetry. It is fair. I can't argue with the math. I am a businessman. I understand transactions. I traded my daughter for a career. This is the receipt. The sun begins to set. The sky turns purple. The ceremony is over. They are drinking champagne now. They are dancing. They are toasting to the future. I am sitting in the dark in my backyard. I have a glass of wine in my hand. It is a 1982 Bordeaux. It costs $500 a bottle. It tastes like vinegar. I raise my glass to the empty yard. To Emily, I whisper. My voice cracks. There is no one to hear me. Just the crickets. Just the wind. I have my legacy. I have my name on a building downtown. I have a Wikipedia page. I have a net worth that people envy. But as the stars come out, I realize the truth. I am the poorest man alive. I have $1 million, but I don't have a picture of my daughter's wedding. I have a paid-off house, but I don't have a home. I have a phone that never rings. I have a calendar that is always empty. I remember that Tuesday, that cursed Tuesday. I remember the CEO's voice. We need you, Robert. I remember feeling important. I remember feeling essential. If I could go back, if I could trade it all, I would give the money back. I would burn the awards. I would quit the job. I would get on that plane to Boston. I would sit in that hot gymnasium. I would watch her walk across the stage. I would clap until my hands hurt. But I can't go back. The deal is closed. The ink is dry. I take a sip of the wine. I close my eyes, and I sit in the dark, waiting for a tomorrow that will be exactly as empty as today. Thank you for listening to this story in English. We often think that we have time. We think that our children will wait for us. But time is the one bank account you can never refill. Here at Daily English Stories, we believe that consistency is key. Whether you are looking for English listening practice or a compelling storytelling audiobook, making this a daily English habit is the secret to success. We create the best English stories to help you think in English. By immersing yourself in an English fluency story like this one, you can finally stop translating in your head. Whether you are looking to learn English through Story Level 1, or you are ready to learn English through Story Level 3 and learn English through Story Level 4, we are here to guide you. This channel provides stories for listening skills and serves as an excellent English practice story resource. If you want to improve your English through story, make sure to subscribe. Use this video for English speaking practice by shadowing the narrator, or simply use it as your English audiobook for learning English while you commute. This is habit building for English learners. Thank you for choosing us for your English story listening. To learn English through story is to learn life. I will see you in the next video.